Book 13, Part 3 of Ovid's Metamorphoses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Rebecca Case. Metamorphoses by Publius Ovidius Naso. Translated by Brooks Moore. Book 13, Part 3. The conqueror, Ulysses, now set sail for Lemnos, country of Hypsipyle, and for the land of Thoas, famed afar, those regions infamous in olden days, where women slew their husbands. So he went that he might capture and bring back with him the arrows of brave Hercules. When these were given back to the Greeks, their lord with them, a final hand at last prevailed to end that long-fought war. Both Troy and Priam fell, and Priam's wretched wife lost all she had, until at last she lost her human form. Her savage barkings frightened foreign lands, where the Hellespont is narrowed down. Great Troy was burning. While the fire still raged, Jove's altar drank old Priam's scanty blood. The priestess of Apollo then, alas, was dragged by her long hair, while up towards heaven she lifted supplicating hands in vain. The Trojan matrons, clinging while they could to burning temples and ancestral gods, victorious Greeks drag off as welcome spoil. Astyanax was hurled down from the very tower from which he often had looked forth and seen his father, by his mother pointed out, when Hector fought for honor and his country's weal. Now Boreas counsels to depart. The sails, moved by a prosperous breeze, resound and wave. The Trojan women cry, "Farewell to Troy! Ah, we are hurried off!" And falling down, they kiss the soil, and leave the smoking roofs of their loved native land. The last to go on board the fleet was Hecuba, a sight most pitiful. She was found among the tombs of her lost sons. While she embraced each urn, and fondly kissed their bones, Ulysses came with ruthless hands, and bore her off. His prize she in her bosom took away the urn of Hector only, and upon his grave she left some white hair taken from her head, a meager gift, her white hair and her tears. Across the strait from Troy there is a land claimed by Bistonian men, and in that land was a rich palace, built there by a king named Polymnestor. To him the Phrygian king in secret gave his youngest son to rear, his Polydorus, safe from Troy and war, a prudent course, if he had not sent gold arousing greed, incitement to a crime. Soon, when the fortunes of the Trojans fell, that wicked king of Thrace took his own sword and pierced the throat of his poor foster son, and then, as if the deed could be concealed, if he removed the body, hurled the boy from a wild cliff into the waves below. Until the sea might be more calm, and gales of wind might be subdued, Atrides moored his fleet of ships upon the Thracian shore. There, from wide gaping earth, Achilles rose, as large as when he lived, with look as fierce as when his sword once threatened Agamemnon. "Forgetting me, do you depart, O Greeks?" he said. "And is your grateful memory of all my worth interred with my bones? Do not do so, and that my sepulchre may have due worship, let Polynesia be immolated to appease the ghost of dead Achilles." Fiercely so he spoke. The old friends of Achilles all obeyed his unforgiving shade, and instantly the noble and unhappy virgin, brave more like a man than woman, was torn from her mother's bosom, cherished more by her, since widowed and alone. And then they led the virgin as a sacrifice from there up to the cruel altar. When the maid observed the savage rites prepared for her, and when she noticed Neoptolemus stand by her with his cruel sword in hand, his fixed eyes on her countenance, she said, "Do not delay my generous gift of blood, with no resistance thrust the ready steel into my throat or breast." And then she laid both throat and bosom bare. Polynesia would never wish to live in slavery, and such rights win no favor from a god. Only I fondly wish my mother might not know that I have died. My love of her takes from my joy in death, and gives me fear. Not my death, truly, but her own sad life should be the most lamented in her tears. Now let your men stand back, that I may go with dignity down to the Stygian shades, and, if my plea is just, let no man's hand touch my pure virgin body. A nobler gift to him, whoever he may be, whom you desire to placate with my death today, shall be a free maid's blood. But, if my words, my parting wish, has power to touch your hearts, King Priam's daughter, not a captive, pleads, freely return my body to my mother. Let her not pay with gold for the sad right to bury me, but only with her tears. Yes, when she could, she also paid with gold. After she said these words, the people could no more restrain their tears, but no one saw her shed one tear. Even the priest himself, reluctantly and weeping, drove the steel into her preferred breast. On failing knees she sank down to the earth, but still maintained a countenance undaunted to the last. And, even unto death, it was her care to cover all that ought to be concealed, and save the value of chaste modesty. The Trojan matrons took her and recalled, lamenting, all the sons of Priam dead, the wealth of blood one house had shed for all. And they bewailed the chaste Polynesia, and you, her mother, only lately called a royal mother and a royal wife, the soul of Asia's fair prosperity, now lowest fallen in all the wreck of Troy. The conquering Ulysses only claimed her his because she had brought Hector forth, and Hector hardly found a master for his mother. She continued to embrace the body of a soul so brave, and shed her tears, as she had shed them often before for country lost, for sons, for royal mate. She bathed her daughter's wounds with tears, and kissed them with her lips, and once more beat her breast. Her white hair streamed down in clotting blood. She tore her breast, and this and more she said. My daughter, what further sorrow can be mine? My daughter, you lie dead. I see your wounds. They are indeed my own. Lest I should lose one child of mine without a cruel sword, you have your wound. I thought, because you were a woman, you were safe from swords. But you, a woman, felt the deadly steel. That same Achilles, who has given to death so many of your brothers, caused your death, the bane of Troy and the serpent by my nest. When Paris and when Phoebus with their shafts had laid him low. Ah, now at last, I said, Achilles will no longer cause me dread. Yet even then he still was to be feared. For him I have been fertile. Mighty Troy now lies in ruin, and the public woe is ended in one vast calamity. For me alone the woe of Troy still lives. But lately, on the pinnacle of fame, surrounded by my powerful sons-in-law, daughters, and daughters-in-law, and strong in my great household, I am now exiled, and destitute, and forced from the sad tombs of those I love, to wretched slavery, serving Penelope, who showing me to curious dames of Ithaca, will point and say, while I am bending to my task, Look at that woman who was widely known, the mother of great Hector, once the wife of Priam. After so many have been lost, now you, last comfort of a mother's grief, must make atonement on the foreman's tomb. I bore a victim for my enemy. Why do I live? An iron-witted wretch? Why do I linger? Why does cruel age detain me? Why, pernicious deities, thus hold me to this earth, unless you will that I may weep at future funerals? After the fall of Troy, who would suppose King Priam could be happy? Blessed in death, he has not seen my daughter's dreadful fate. He lost at once his kingdom and his life. Can I imagine you, a royal maid, will soon be honored with due funeral rites, and will be buried in our family tomb? Such fortune comes no more to your sad